Hello folks, my name is Dom Flemons. I'm known as the American Songster. So I play the guitar, the banjo, the harmonica, and the rhythm bones. And one of the things that drew me into becoming a professional musician is that I saw after a certain point, besides just being a fan of music, I found that as someone learning and performing the old-time music that sometimes can span back over 100 years of American culture, I found that there was a need for more people to be talking about this old-time music and revitalizing it for a new generation and a new audience. And so I found that I was in a position where I could then start performing around and playing some of these old-time songs and presenting some of these vintage instruments for a modern audience. Well, one of the things that drew me into this old-time music was that I got into old rock and roll. I used to listen to a lot of 1950s and 60s music on the oldie station back in Phoenix, where I was born and raised. And I found that this old music was just of interest to me in one form or another. Something in the lyrics, something in the way the songs sounded. It drew me in. The music of Chuck Berry, Fats Domino, I don't know, Carl Perkins, some of that old-time rock and roll. And then I found that there were musicians who preceded these musicians who were so much farther in the past than any of the current music that was around on the pop radio at the time. And so I started to find musicians like Muddy Waters, and I started to find musicians like Charlie Patton and Hank Williams. And that took me on a trajectory that continued on to people like Jimmy Rogers and the Carter family. And so from there, I just started to learn a lot of these different songs. I then began to go to college out in Northern Arizona University, and I started to go into the university library, and I began to find the field recordings of the Library of Congress, of folklorists like Alan and John Lomax. And I began to see folk music in a much deeper literary sense, where I could find different folk songs that would tell stories of the people. These were messages of one person to another, reaching out and letting another person know that someone understood the way that they felt about things. And I just liked that notion of folk music. And as I went along, I then had the opportunity to start performing old-timey music, old-time fiddle and banjo music. But then I began to find that there were African American musicians who fueled bluegrass music and country and western music, and that drew me in even farther. So then I got to meet a wonderful fellow by the name of Joe Thompson, and that led me to go out to North Carolina, where I lived for many years. And not only Joe Thompson taught me music, you know, in his old-time fiddle and banjo style, but I also began to learn from a lot of old-time blues singers, people like John D. Holman, Aljamain Hinton, and Boo Hanks, and I would go to these people's houses, sit at their feet, learn their songs as well as learn the stories of their families.
He's a Lone Ranger, Bass Reeves is his name.
I began to find that while I thought I was just recreating the music, I found that I had started to put my own stamp on things. Of course, all along the way I was writing songs, so my own interpretation of my adventures and my thoughts on different parts of the music were always prevalent as I was making my way along.
First thing smoking down the road somewhere. The coffee stew pony and boys, I'm gonna ride. 56.
And so I've just continued on this journey. I've traveled over 3 million miles performing old-time music all over the United States, all over Europe, all over the Netherlands, and in Norway and Scandinavia, and then also as far as Malaysia and Australia. And I've learned just so much about life and the human experience through these old-time songs, and on the international stage, being able to share a bit of our American culture with the world. That's been something that's really empowered me. And eventually I found that the moniker, the American Songster, stuck with me because I wasn't interested in just playing one type of music. I was interested in playing folk songs, country music, blues, early jazz, ragtime, rock and roll, rhythm and blues, doo-wop, and a whole variety of songs. When I present my shows, I find myself presenting my original material as well as traditional material, and I'm also presenting a variety of instruments that I've picked up in my journeys. One of the most unique, I guess, would be an instrument called the rhythm bones, which are cow rib bones cut to length that I hold between my fingers and I play like the castanets. And then also an instrument called the quills, which is an American version of the famous panpipes that you see all over the world, from South America all the way through Spain and different parts of Africa. And I present this very rarely heard style of American panpipe playing. I also present a variety of at least 3 or 4 different styles of guitar playing. Sometimes strumming, other times I finger pick it using a thumb-led finger picking style, which mimics the sound of two guitars playing at one time. Through these different styles of music, I try to convey a little bit of the essence of the original players and practitioners of this traditional music, because there's something deep in the heart and spirit of all of us as human beings that can be illuminated by hearing the songs of the past. It's not so much that you want to go back into the past, but sometimes seeing that the past has a relevance to the present can lead you into a brand new future where you can see a brighter day. And that's something that's always drawn me in as the American Songster, is being able to present these different stories.
Born a slave down in Arkansas, lived with his master and his dear old mom. Mama said, son, you ain't free, but you do anything you want, though if the mister don't see. Now he's a U.S. Marshal and a Lone Ranger. He's a Lone Ranger, Bass Reeves is his name.
Another part of my journey has been reclaiming a little bit of my own roots in the Southwest with my work Black Cowboys, where first time I heard that 1 in 4 cowboys out west were African American cowboys, you know. I then had to search out what type of songs did these black cowboys sing, and then also who were some of the main characters and larger-than-life figures of the West that defined this movement of westward expansion.
And if this morning don't suit me, black woman, I'm gonna drive my bell cow home.
The Black Cowboy story allowed me to be able to see for the first time a strain of the American experience that takes African Americans out of the realms of slavery into emancipation and then into the modern era. And I was able to do that with traditional songs as well as original songs, just learning stories, taking in all of these different experiences and finding a new insight into what it means to be African American in this country, and also to know that there are hardships along the way that aren't only defined by the present, but they've been a part of the country from the very beginning. And knowing that, in some ways, the past can allow me or anybody to be able to think about how we can overcome some of the obstacles we find, and it's still in our country to this day. And so Black Cowboys was a perfect vehicle for that.
Said he'd try and do the best he could if we'd only give him work, but he didn't know straight up about a cow. So the boss, he cut him out a mount and kindly put him on, for he was sort of like the little stray somehow.
Well, if you want to find out more about me, Dom Flemons, the American Songster. You can go to my website, theamericansongster.com. And also you can go on to, if you want to do a deeper search, you can always go to the Southern Folklife Collection at the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, where I've placed a large collection of my research into the archives there. So you can even go even deeper, because there are stories that always connect every type of music, no matter where, the time, and the place. And one of the things outside of performing that I've done is I've gone to different spaces, taken in a lot of the stories that I've picked up along the way, and I've put it into a form that's easy to access for people so that they can do their own research, and then what I hope is go one step farther and go deeper into that story, so that then, I don't know, we might be able to learn something about each other.